Hi, fantasy readers. This is Karyne Norton, your fellow book binger, and you are listening to the Finding Fantasy Reads podcast, where you can test out a new fantasy story every single week to find your next favorite author. I love getting the opportunity to highlight Havok, a flash fiction publisher with amazing authors and new stories every day. It can take me longer to weed through their stories for the podcast because not all of them are fantasy. And then it takes me 4 times as long to prep for the episodes if I end up contacting 4 different authors. So I was super excited when an author reached out to me to see about featuring her Havok fairy tale stories, and saved me all that time. The stories are all amazing in different ways, and it was a quick and easy yes email that I sent out the same day she contacted me. H.L. Davis is a Christian, wife, and homeschool mom who calls the South home. She first discovered the joys of writing at 10 years of age, and it's a craft she is delighted to pursue once again. She is particularly fond of fairy tales, whether it's retelling old favorites or weaving magical stories of her own, which is the mix you will find in today's selection. This first one is narrated by Paeter Frandsen, host of Christian Geek Central, and it has a unique perspective on a familiar fairy tale. Stick around to the end of all 4 stories or check out today's show notes to see where you can find more from the author, as well as how to enter our latest giveaway. For now, please enjoy Big Ben by H.L. Davis.
I settle my giant form deep in the white sand, smirking with satisfaction as the mermaid's shouts of rage continue to ring out across the water. Perhaps they are right to be a little vexed. I did, after all, startle them from their play in the lagoon, chasing them about and snapping my great jaws. But what do they expect a mighty predator like me to do when I'm hunting for lunch and see their tails glimmering like fat, delectable fish? Oh well. Too bad they didn't find the game as delightful as I did. My belly now full of rainbow fish, I relax and close my eyes, the sun's rich golden rays soaking deep into my scales. The distant yells have faded away, leaving only the sound of lapping water and occasional screech of a jungle bird to interrupt the peace. Neverland. Sweet, sweet paradise. Why did it take me so long to find you?
You're from the London Zoo, aren't you?
So much for my afternoon nap. I lazily open one eye to find a thin figure standing before me on the sandbar. Ragged clothes, a mop of dark hair, and dirt smudged on his nose. A lost boy. If I could issue a solitary complaint about my beautiful new island home, it would be the presence of these arrogant little pests. Once every few days since my arrival, they think themselves oh so clever to poke me with sticks while I slumber, jeering and laughing until my temper prevails and I try to bite them. In the end, they always take the easy way out and fly too high for me to reach. And the worst of the bunch is that blasted leader of theirs who cackles and crows like a vain rooster. A growl rumbles deep in my throat as I scan the shore for the rest of them.
It's okay.
The lad raises his hands reassuringly, though his face is tense and troubled.
It's only me today, and I don't want to hurt you.
My eyes narrow at the boy. But I wait, and he rambles on.
I'm Jimmy, and I recognize you from back home. You were always my favorite animal at the zoo.
He ventures a smile, revealing gaps where a couple of his pathetically small teeth are missing.
So imagine my surprise to find you here, in Neverland. I almost couldn't believe my eyes when I first saw you last week, or was it last month?
Jimmy's dark brows scrunch together, and he shakes his head with a nervous laugh.
Anyway, you must have been very clever, Found some secret portal not even the fairies know about.
If he expects me to share the secret place, he's a fool. Not that he would be able to reach it, as humans are completely inept at the art of prolonged submersion. Still, I can't help but grin. I am quite a clever crocodile.
And that's why I'm here. You see,
his voice sinks to a whisper as his body lowers to the sand.
I want to go home. I have for a long while, but I don't remember the way, and Paeter says if I mention it to him again, or cry, or lose any more teeth, he'll...
Jimmy swallows.
He'll cut off my hand. He can't abide any talk of missing family, you see, or any sign of change, growing older.
So, Peter Pan is precisely the villain I suspected. But then, I've always been a phenomenal judge of character. Glancing around, Jimmy reaches in his pocket and brings out a ticking golden object hanging from a chain. I stiffen. This item is one I recognized from the hands of zookeepers.
This is my father's watch. He's a captain in the Royal Navy. At least, I'm pretty sure. I've scratched the word help on the back here.
Jimmy shows me the markings and continues.
I know if my father sees this, he'll keep looking for me. He'll find a way to bring me home.
He blinks fast, rubbing a grubby hand across his cheek.
Anyway, I thought maybe you could find a way to get it to him, or at least back to London.
Back to London? I almost hiss at the boy. Why would I do such a reckless thing now that I'm finally free? But something in his blue eyes, the desperate look of a captive, makes my large reptilian heart soften. Jimmy may not be in a cage like I once was, but he's a prisoner nonetheless. I open my jaws wide. Jimmy stares for a moment, then laughs.
Thanks, Big Ben.
He tosses me the watch. I catch it and choke it down, feeling it slide down my throat, cold and heavy. My body unexpectedly begins to pulse to its steady tick-tock, tick-tock. I groan. What a sentimental idiot this world of endless summer has made me.
I hope you enjoyed listening to Big Ben by H.L. Davis, narrated by Paeter Frandsen of Christian Geek Central. I tend to dislike Peter Pan, probably because now I'm a grown-up and I see how annoying he can be. Please don't hate me, all of you Peter Pan fans. But it makes me love when an author paints him as a bit of a bad guy, so that was a fun one for me. This next one gives a fresh look at Aladdin's lamp. Please enjoy Wish Come True by H.L. Davis. The wedding will be in the morning at the Crystal Pool, small, with only 1 or 2 witnesses. Aladdin cleared his throat and pushed back the dark curl that always fell onto his forehead. Would you honor us with your presence? Grief grabbed my throat. So, the arrangements were complete. Ever since Aladdin's second wish, to find his true family, had led to the discovery that he was the long-lost prince, it was only a matter of time before the Sultan planned a marriage for his son. And just this afternoon, they had paid a visit to the exquisite Lady Fatima. Aladdin's amber-flecked eyes were bright as he awaited my reply in the lantern light of his chambers. Though my heart was shattered, I could not deny the one who still held each of its broken pieces. Of course, I forced a smile, a skill I'd used often in my centuries as a genie. He returned a smile of his own. Thank you. I'd like to bestow my final wish upon my bride, when the time is right. That is well. Costly rings dug into my skin as I squeezed my hands together. Now, if you'll excuse me. I bowed my head. I will retire. Aladdin retrieved the lamp from his pocket and held it towards me. Sleep well, Zara. Until morning, my master. I snapped my fingers, and my form faded into a shimmering mist that danced and twirled through the small opening of the lamp. Within seconds, I was in my room, surrounded by ornate carpets and tapestries, a small table offering me fresh fruit, and a golden goblet of wine. Alone in my lavish prison, my head began to throb. When would I learn that a genie should hold no desires of her own? That the one thing I was expected to master was my affections? They were to be bottled up as tightly as a vial of precious perfume, shackled like a dangerous criminal. Yet I had failed with Aladdin. I'd allowed my heart to soften when his first wish was to save a dying child. Let myself care more and more each day for this kind beggar turned prince. I'd begun to hope that one day he might come to care for me, too. Except he didn't. He was to marry Lady Fatima. He wanted to give her his last wish, too. When that third wish was made, I'd be whisked away to another desolate place for countless years of waiting. And I'd never see Aladdin again. I lay upon silk sleeping pillows, my body trembling as I realized I must tell him. I wasn't sure what would happen when I did. Pain? Punishment? But I couldn't face an eternity of wondering what he might have said if I'd only been brave. No sooner had I finished dressing for the wedding than my summons came. Chimes echoed around my chambers, and magic pulled me. I closed my eyes as I flew from the lamp. It was time. My feet met tiles warmed by the first morning rays of the late summer sun. The scent of jasmine and rose flooded my nostrils, and melodic bird calls greeted my ears. I took a slow breath and opened my eyes. Before me was the palace garden's renowned crystal pool, rectangular, shining, and clear. In front of it stood two smiling figures. One, the Sultan, grandly adorned. Then Aladdin, looking every bit the royal bridegroom in both garb and grin. I looked from one to the other, my confusion rising. Had the Sultan seen me leave the lamp? Where was Lady Fatima? Zara. Aladdin set down the lamp and held out a hand. I believe it is time for my final wish. I hesitated a moment, but Aladdin's gaze drew me forward. My skin tingled when he clasped my hand in his. Yes, Prince Aladdin, but please, I must speak with you. Only after my wish. Aladdin squeezed my fingers. I wish. My heart sank. For your freedom. Freedom? My invisible chains fell to pieces, taking with them the weight of 1,000 lifetimes. I stood taller, my muscles relaxed, my bones lighter than those of a sparrow. Air flowed easily in and out of my lungs, my mind almost dizzy with the sweetness of it. The garden around me grew more brilliant in color and detail. I drank in the sight, my heart bursting with awe. Sudden movement drew my attention back to the lamp. It was rising from the ground, turning, twisting like a top. Round and round it spun until it was a golden haze. A blinding light flashed, and the lamp disappeared. I was free. Tears coursed down my cheeks for the first time, and a strange mix of laugh and sob escaped my throat. I turned to Aladdin. I thought. Taking my face in his hands, Aladdin wiped my tears away with his thumbs. That my last wish was for my bride? It will have been, if you will give me the joy of saying yes. I stared into his eyes, so earnest and full of hope. Could it be? Zara, I don't want to be your master. I want to be much more. I've known for weeks, and finally found the courage yesterday to tell my father the truth. His voice shook. So I ask you now, in your newfound freedom, will you be my wife? I brushed Aladdin's unruly curl back from his forehead and tucked it beneath his turban. To be your wife is the dearest wish of my heart. Aladdin's lips met mine, rich as honey and sunlight. I hope you enjoyed listening to Wish Come True by H.L. Davis, narrated by Karyne Norton. Both of these first two stories were editor picks for Havok's upcoming anthology, which I will have more info on at the end of the episode. And this next story was a long list finalist in this year's Realm Awards. If you're trying to figure out what fairy tale she twisted, I'll save you the trouble. It's her own. Please enjoy Bittersweet by H.L. Davis.
I snap my fingers and the broom leaps from a corner and dances about the room. It sweeps up candy wrappers and stray autumn leaves that had floated into the shop throughout the day. And what a glorious November day it has been. My knees creak like an old floorboard as I sit on one of the cushioned chairs behind the counter. But my heart is filled with delight. Dozens of visitors came today. So many happy, beaming faces. A welcome change from the sadness that's shrouded our kingdom since the recent passing of young King Jansen. This morning, his widow gave us news to celebrate. Queen Elise carries the heir to the kingdom in her womb. Misty-eyed, I bring a mug of warm cider to my lips when the bell at the front door rings. "If that's you, Simon Perkins, the shop is closed." I chuckle, thinking of the lad and his penchant for candy corn, like his father and grandfather before him. I open the door with a wave of my hand, but instead of the freckle-faced boy, it's the queen. Her skirts rustle as she steps over the threshold and lowers her velvet hood, a golden circlet glinting on her brow. She glances round at the myriad of sweets housed in glass jars along marble shelves, pausing at the lone broom tidying the floor. Her gaze then crosses the counter to me.
Mr. Magnus, may I speak with you?
"By all means, Your Majesty. Please have a seat." I gesture to the empty chair beside me. It scoots back an inch or two in encouragement. After a moment's hesitation, Queen Elise sits, folding her hands diplomatically and raising hazel eyes to mine.
My late husband spoke highly of you, Mr. Magnus. Said you once served as High Magician in the palace before retiring 200 years ago?
This is true. I soon grew bored of retirement and opened this candy shop.
I've heard rumors that you add magic to some of the sweets in your shop. Candy that can heal, for example, or help with anxiety.
Indeed. One of the last times I saw young Jansen, he requested butterfly taffy to calm his nerves on your wedding day. A spark of a smile flashes about the Queen's mouth, then vanishes.
Mr. Magnus, I believe you know I was present at the time of my husband's accident, at the time of his death.
I nod, tapping my fingertips in thought. Does Your Majesty suffer from nightmares? I have vanilla dream drops that can help.
No, yes, I do have nightmares, but...
She twists her royal topaz ring to and fro.
I see the accident all the time, over and over in my head. The horse throwing Jan, his body landing on the ground, and then...
The steadiness in her voice cracks like glass, and she blinks rapidly. Poor child. That is a terrible burden.
I must find a way to forget it, to banish that awful memory forever.
Elise straightens in her chair, hands clenched.
Which is why I need a candy that will do just that.
An uneasy quiet fills the room, the mahogany clock raising its voice higher with each passing tick, tick, tick. My spirit grows as heavy as a boulder. That is powerful magic you request, my queen. Very powerful.
I'm willing to pay, whatever you ask. But as your queen,
her voice deepens,
I command that you at least try.
I search her expression, wading through its flood of determination, and detect the faintest gleam of doubt. Yes, I will present her with the choice. I clap my hands. Elise jerks in her seat, mouth dropping open as she views the items I now hold. Such a candy has already been invented. In my right hand it sits, a swirl of white and dark chocolate tucked inside a shimmering paper wrapper. But as always, those who purchase magical sweets must first read and sign a contract. The creamy page in my left hand flies onto the queen's lap. She picks up the paper, scanning the small script, her lips part, brows raised.
Why, it says this bittersweet candy will erase all my memories of Jan, as though I'd never known him.
I'm afraid that's the only way. To lose the bad memories, the good must go with them. They are so intertwined, no earthly power can separate the two. Her eyes dart between the bittersweet and the contract shaking in her hands.
I can't possibly give up all my memories of Jan, but...
She swallows hard.
How can I serve the people well with this dark cloud looming over me? How can I be a good mother to my child?
Tears flow drop by drop down her pale cheeks, marking the paper with her sorrow. My own voice quavers as I lean forward and speak. My dear, hear an old man. I know this shadow feels too great to bear. In my centuries of life, I've seen my share of them. But shadows, however large, only exist because they are surrounded by light. Queen Elise stares at me for many hushed seconds. Then, with small, strong fingers, she rips the contract in two. The pieces drift to the floor. As the shop's window panes rattle in the fall wind, she pulls her cloak more tightly about her shoulders.
Thank you, Mr. Magnus. I hope your broom won't mind a little extra sweeping. I'll take some vanilla dream drops, if you please, and a piece or two of butterfly taffy.
I hope you enjoyed listening to Bittersweet by H.L. Davis, narrated by Paeter Frandsen of Christian Geek Central. I know I've said this in the past, but I'm always drawn to the stories that have those bittersweet endings. So it's no surprise that when she offered up her other 3 stories, I also asked to include this one as well. This last story is the snarkiest, and I hope it makes you smile as much as it made me smile. Please enjoy Fiona's Fabulous Footwear by H.L. Davis. It was the day before Elle's ball, and I was desperate, so I traveled with all haste to my cousin's shop, Fiona's Fabulous Footwear. I know, I'm Elle's fairy godmother. I should have known how to make some simple slippers. But while I can create the most ornate carriages, the most magnificent animals, and the most exquisite gowns, I can't make a decent pair of shoes to save my life. When I've tried before, and believe me, I've tried, I produced footwear that imperiled both life and limb. The first pair I attempted were an interesting surprise, iron platforms with a striking scarlet shimmer. But attempting to slip on the devils resulted in burnt toes of a similar shade. The second pair was more promising, luxurious fur boots. My feet made it safely inside them, so I was optimistic. Then I took one step that whisked me 7 leagues away. I've never been so grateful I wasn't turned toward the mountains, or so ungrateful for my horrible motion sickness. Yes, a visit to Fiona's was by far my safest option. I expected quite a crowd when I came within sight of the shop. Ever since Fiona had crafted a shoe house for that old woman with dozens of children, the name of her shop was famous throughout the world. And throughout worlds beyond that. But conveniently enough, on that day, no giant line snaked down the street. I glided through the doors, and a tinkling silver bell announced my arrival. "As the sign clearly states," my cousin's voice sounded frazzled in the next room, "the only creatures who may enter the premises today are those with pre-scheduled appointments." She huffed into the room, her cheeks red as apples. "Oh, Daphne, I thought you might be that infuriating cat coming in to inquire yet again about when his boots will be mended. This isn't your usual day to visit." I grabbed my compact, anxiously powdered my nose, then shoved it back in my pocket. "Fiona, I'm in an absolute tizzy. The ball of Elle's dreams is happening tomorrow night, and I must find her the perfect pair of shoes." Fiona's eyes twinkled. She knew all about my footwear fiascos. "I'm happy to help, dear, but our current selections are few, and you may want to run to the back of the shop for a bit, because my next customer—" The door burst open in a rush of wind, sending the bell into fits. I squinted at the silhouette in the doorway. That wicked witch of the East, with her dramatic entrances. The witch's black eyes glittered as she strode inside. "I'm here for my order. Is it ready?" "Yes, of course. Allow me to fetch it for you." Fiona hurried from the room, throwing me a warning look. I tapped my hand with the tip of my wand and nodded curtly. "Morissa?" "Daphne." She grinned, revealing teeth as pointy as her hat. "I hear you made an unexpected journey recently. Have you recovered?" Drat. The 7-league boot story had already reached Oz. I patted my periwinkle curls. "Oh, you must mean my travels to Snora for the princess's christening last month. It was a most charming occasion. At least, it was until an ill-tempered insomniac blessed the infant with 100 years of sleep." Before Morissa could reply, Fiona rushed back to the counter with a silver package. "Here they are." The witch snatched up the order. "My sister will be green with envy." Cackling, Morissa handed Fiona a gold piece. "Until next time." Morissa departed in a haze of smoke, leaving us alone once more. "She always gives me the shivers." Fiona rubbed her arms briskly. "But she pays well and has excellent taste in footwear. If only I had a similar pair of shoes for Elle." I glanced around at dozens of bare shelves. "Heavens, you spoke the truth about having little selection." My cousin shrugged. "There have been so many customers lately. It's been difficult to keep up with demand. But with the new elves I've hired, we should fill the shelves back up in no time." "No time is my dilemma. Have you no plain dancing slippers?" "Afraid not, dear. A king traveled from afar and bought them all for his 12 daughters. Apparently they wear out their shoes daily." "Bare feet sounds like a suitable choice for them, then," I muttered. I continued scanning the room until my eyes caught a glimmer near the far ceiling. I floated over to it, eyes widening. "Glass slippers?" "Oh, those." Fiona sighed. "Marvin made them. His glass shop hasn't been doing too well, and with all the business here, he thought someone might like them. He even put a little charm on them so they'll perfectly fit the feet of their owner. I tried to tell him they were the silliest—" "I'll take them." Fiona stared. "Daphne, you're not serious." "I most certainly am. They're marvelous. Who ever heard of someone wearing glass slippers? They'll be a sensation, and the prince won't be able to resist the charm of a maiden with such smashing footwear." I cringed at my choice of words and cradled the shoes. "Please thank Marvin for me, and—" I sniffed daintily. "Have you any protective bags?" I flew from the shop in the height of exhilaration, determined that Elle's glass slippers would soon become the world's most famous pair of shoes, and I, the most wonderful of all godmothers. After all, couldn't a fairy dream? I hope you enjoyed listening to Fiona's Fabulous Footwear by H.L. Davis, narrated by Karyne Norton. If you want to read more by H.L. Davis, you can find her on Instagram at h.l.davis_stories, or on her Substack at hldavisstories.substack.com. I'll have direct links for both of those in the show notes. And I'm hoping I'll have a direct link to Havok's upcoming anthology, which is featuring 3 of her stories. But that depends on whether or not Havok releases the link between the time I'm recording this, which is all the way back on March 7th, and the time that you're listening to this, which is no earlier than May 13th. Yes, we record far in advance so I can stay organized. But then sometimes I get hung up on the fact that this will be listened to in the future, and it hits my nerdy little time travel fan nerve. If you enjoyed listening to Paeter narrate Big Ben and Bittersweet, you might also enjoy listening to his audio dramas at spiritblade.com, or his podcast, Christian Geek Central, where he discusses movies, video games, and all things enjoyed by self-proclaimed geeks from a Christian worldview. I know the end of this is getting a little long, but bear with me. I don't want you to forget about the giveaway that all the featured authors have so generously donated to. It's a big batch of free books, so be sure to check it out and enter to win at findingfantasyreads.com/giveaway. Keep an ear out for information in the next 2 weeks about our Season 2 Finding Fantasy Reads Awards. Last year, we gave out 4 awards, and this year I've added some new categories. When the last episode drops on May 27th, you'll have just 1 week to place your votes for the awards. Thank you all for listening, and happy reading.